What's going on, guys? Jaelin White here, and I'm a 21-year-old real estate investor. Now, I could talk about a million and one things right now, but I'm going to cover for you guys today how to break down a real estate deal so you know whether you can make money on it, do you want to rent it, do you want to flip it, do you want to wholesale it. So many options in real estate, but I want to teach you the main fundamental on how to take a property, how to run the numbers, and see what's a deal. So I'm going to pick something random. We'll do Phoenix, Arizona. I'm on Zillow.com right now. Now, there's also sites like Redfin and other things like that, and you can use whatever you want to find comps, which we'll talk about that in a second. But for this example, I'm using Zillow.com. I don't want you guys to think that I picked some address to go over today so I knew the numbers. I'm literally just going to show you how I'd break down a random address if I was going to purchase it. So I'm going to go over here. We'll look at a property. Let's just say, we'll zoom in right here. All right. So there's a lot of properties for sale. So let's say we get sent this deal right here, 4609 North 56th Lane. Now, I know nothing about this property. I've never, talked to the realtor or anything. It's a random deal that I pulled up. But let's say, you wanted to invest in real estate, so you started talking to realtors, you started doing some marketing, and you found that this property was listed on the market, which, by the way, you do not need to have a property listed in order to buy it. We buy off market for most of our deals. But let's say you get sent this deal, and you want to figure out, is $180,000 a good deal on it or not? Now, the first indicator you're going to have for, are we at least in the ballpark, is the Zestimate. You never want to use this as like a end-all be-all explanation for how much the property is worth, but it can give you a good idea as to where, where the rough after repair value might be around. Now, I have a deal, like I just flipped a deal, the Zestimate was like $840. The real ARV, which is after repair value, what it's worth after it's fixed up and listed on the market, was more like $950 to $1 million. So take that with a grain of salt. But that'd be the first thing I'd look at. So I'd say, okay, at least we're $5,000 below the Zestimate, but we're probably not low enough for it to be a real deal. So what I'm gonna do from here is, the property is right here, so I am going to go ahead and look at also recently solds. I'm going to go over to days on / sold in last 90 days, and this is what a property appraiser is going to do. They're going to look at our properties right here. They're going to look at all the deals that have sold, and well, not are listed, but all the deals that have sold in the past 90 days within 10% of the square footage and around the same year built. Now, I originally am from Phoenix, so I know this area, and I know that the year built, most of them in this area are going to be roughly the same. So you want to make sure that, when you're looking at sold comps to figure out what a property's worth, you want to make sure it's built in the same year, or at least within the same range. If the property that you're looking at buying was built in 1970, maybe use properties built between 1960 to 1980, So, okay. So our property that we looked at was a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,042 square feet. So I want to look at 3-bed, 2-baths anywhere from, we'll just say 1,800 to 2,200 square feet, and just look for, look at what those are selling for. And what do you know? Right down the road, we have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,042 square foot property that sold just recently for $200,000. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to figure out, is this property fixed up? Because if it is, that means somebody likely flipped this property, and that could be used as a comp, a comparable sale, to figure out what our property we were looking at could be worth after it's fixed up as well. So I'm going to scroll through, and I'm going to notice that it actually does have a pool, and I know all the lot sizes are generally the same in this area, so you want to make sure the lot size is around the same, but for the sake of this example, we won't worry about that, because I know most of the lots are the same in this area. But it does look fixed up. So somebody definitely came into this property, put some work into it, and fixed it up. So I would say $200,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,042 square foot property would be, around the range. But here's what we want to do. We don't want to just take that one number and call it a day. We want to look around for 2 to 3 more comps. And so the next thing I'm going to do is my eye's just going to float to kind of the higher price properties in the area, and right away I'll see one right here on Highland Avenue. This is another 3-bed, 2-bath, just about the same amount of square footage as the last property. just sold for $198,000. Now, unfortunately, on this listing, we don't have many pictures, which in this case, you could go to a site like redfin.com and take a look at all the pictures, and hopefully they have more pictures there. And you can check there, but we don't have a lot of time in this video, so I'm not going to go into a bunch of different websites trying to find pictures of a property. But let's just say, for the sake of this example, this property is fixed up, which on the exterior, obviously you guys know this looks like a decent property, and this is not an amazing area. It's not $1 million property, so obviously you can't expect some super modern, amazing looking property. This looks good for the area. So there we have another one for $198,000. Right above it, I'm seeing $199,000, a 4-bed, 3-bath. That's not really a comp. We're not even going to look at that because we already have 2 solid comparables showing us that we're close to $200,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath with 2,000 square feet. Now, right here, you can see we have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot property for $188,000. Now, this is a little bit more advanced, but you can start looking at what's on the market to realize, are we on an uptrend in the area? Meaning, yeah, these properties might have sold for around $200,000, but now we have one with a lot less square footage going for $188,000. We could maybe even push that to $205,000, $210,000 in 6 months. Who knows? But you don't want to go off of that when you're buying. You can at least be aware of that so that you know if the area is hot or not. So from there, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but this is very important. You need to make sure that you're looking at the properties that are within the major boundaries. So here, I believe this is, let's see, 51st Avenue. So this is probably 59th Avenue right here. Sorry if my math is wrong, but you want to look in between these major boundaries. So you got 51st, 59th, you've got Indian School Road, and you've got Camelback Road up here. So we want to basically look for all the comparable properties in this little area right here to figure out what ours was worth, and we did. We found those 2 deals, or those 2 ones that have sold for $200,000 here and $198,000 here. So I think with 2, you're pretty close to being spot on for the ARV. I can look around and see if there's really any other 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot comps I at least want to look at. Doesn't look like we're really seeing much that we would want to use. So just those 2 comps. So then you can average it out. That'd be, I guess, my math is terrible, but I guess a $199,000 ARV on this property would be the average. I'm just guessing. If I'm wrong, don't troll me. But so what we're going to do from there, we know this property now, extremely fixed up, all ready to go, would be worth $200,000. And they were asking $180,000. So now we have to figure out how much work will we need to put in the property to get it to that after repair value mark. And do we have enough of a spread to make any money on this property if we were going to flip it? Now, if you're going to rent it, that's a whole nother video. But basically you have to decide, when you look at what's your mortgage payment going to be or whatever, if you bought it as a rental, compare that to the neighborhood rents, which, Zillow also gives you a Zestimate on the rent. Another tool is Rentometer, rentometer.com. If you want to figure out roughly what the property would rent for, plug in the address, plug in the beds, and analyze the rental. You can see around where it would rent for. So you just want to make sure you be cash flow positive after considering your mortgage payment, your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and then also you can throw in a 10% vacancy on there and a 10% property management. And if it's a really hot area, then use a 5% vacancy. But that's for a rental. So we'll talk flip for the sake of this example. So $180,000. Now we got to look at the inside of this property and see roughly how much work are we going to need to put in. Now, obviously, you always want to use a contractor when you're actually trying to decide what are the real repair estimates. But when you're doing a deal breakdown before you're deciding to go there and look at the property or whatever, this is what I use. So I see the front of the property is it's in okay condition. It's not pretty. You probably want to put some money into the front of the property. The inside is actually very clean. The kitchen, and it has a pool, by the way. So one of our comps had a pool. Ours has a pool as well, which is pretty good. So the flooring needs to be changed, I'd say, in here. Maybe not. Maybe you want to open up the property. It's very light cosmetic fixes. So in this situation, for a very light cosmetic fix where the kitchen almost looks renovated, this, guys, by the way, this is not a flip property. I just picked a random deal. You would not want to buy this. It's already fixed up. But if we were going to buy this, we wanted to maximize the pricing. I would say, maybe we want to put $8 a square footage in it to maybe update the appliances here. Nobody likes those black appliances, and you got the cheap looking white stove over here. Put in some new appliances, maybe update the cabinets. Those look a little bit old. Maybe update the this ugly, kitchen countertop. So we're looking at anywhere from $8 to $12 a square foot. If you're in a more expensive market like California, I might look at $20 a square foot. You have to talk to a contractor beforehand to figure out kind of a rough way to figure out those repair estimates. But let's say for this area, we're going to work $8 a square foot because I know the area. So let me pull up a calculator. Is there applications, calculator? Okay, let me X this out. So as far as we're using $8 a square foot to figure out how much work we're going to do. So 2,042 square feet times 8. So we're looking at putting roughly $16,336 into this property, which to me, I've done plenty of deals. It looks like that's an accurate number because, yeah, the property looks clean, but I'm telling you, one of my buddies just did a deal just like this in the same area as this property, and he thought he was going to put $4 or $5 grand, which maybe some of you guys know how to, know renovations. He ended up putting like $18,000 into the deal, just because you really want to maximize that value. So now we know we're going to put roughly, let's just round it out to 16 grand into the deal. Purchase price is $180,000. We figured it was worth $200,000. And, already if you add the repair costs to the purchase price that this is for sale for, you're already losing money there. You're not even counting the closing costs, which sometimes can be as much as 2% of the purchase price. In this situation in Phoenix, maybe they're $3 grand per side, so you're looking at a total of $6 grand in closing costs. And you're not looking at any financing costs. If you got a hard money loan, which if you don't know what that is, just look up hard money loan on Google. You might be paying, 10% interest only over 12 months, and you might have another 6 to 12 grand in hard money costs that you got to account for. So you add all that up, you're well over the break-even point of $200,000 as the sale price, and that's if you actually end up getting that $200,000 sale price. For me, I'm a little bit more conservative, so maybe I would discount that ARV price of $200,000 to $190 or $195 to make up for if I needed to sell for that price. So you've got to keep all that in mind. And when you're looking at this deal, a great way to negotiate would be to come to the listing agent and say, look, I know this deal it looks good. I know it's in good condition. It's been listed for 2 weeks. I can understand if you don't want to work with somebody like me. But here's the deal. I'm in this business to make money, and I've ran all my numbers. I think I'm going to put roughly $16,000 to $20,000 into this property. It's in good condition, but it needs a full new kitchen. It needs new flooring, in my opinion. The whole front of the property needs to be redone. And, I want to put more work into it and get that maximized sales price. So in order to make any money on it, I have to be at this price. So, let's just say you have that $200,000 and you got 6% realtor commission. So we'll go times 0.94 to take away that 6%. Now we're at $188,000. Now you got about 2% in closing costs. That's 0.02. Oops, times 0.98. My bad. So now you're 184. Now we're going to take away the repair costs of $16,000. Now we're at 168. And now let's just say you have 10 grand in hard money costs because you're getting financing on the deal. Which isn't a mortgage. Again, look it up if you don't know what it is. It's actually pretty simple, and most flippers use that form of financing if they're flipping the property. So let's say you have another 10 grand in hard money costs. You're at $158,240 for the price you need to purchase it as just to break even if it did sell for $200. Now, if you're a gambler, you might say, hey, I'm okay with the 10% return on this. I'm going to put in $158,000 into this deal. I want to make 15 to 20 grand. Some people are okay with that. For me, I want to make 30 to 40 grand if I'm going to put in any sort of money like that into the deal. And really, remember, you're getting financing, so really maybe your actual capital come out of your hand could be $0, it could be 15, 20 grand. Depends on your lender, your terms, stuff like that. So, you know, you might decide, I want to make, let's just say, I want to make 40K on this deal, you know. I care about my money, I don't want to take a risk. So now I know I need to purchase this property for $118,240 in order for me to make $40,000 on the deal. Now you can go to the realtor and say, look, I buy deals like this all the time. I want to make my target profit of $40,000 in 4 to 6 months. You might be able to flip it quicker, but you always want to overestimate how long it's going to take you to do it, how much it's going to cost you when you're negotiating for the property. Why would you tell the guy, hey, this is a great deal, I'm going to sell it in 2 days? You know, he's going to be like, okay, pay me the highest price. So when you're negotiating and break down the numbers, you're at $118,000, what you need to get to. And now you know what's your break-even point. Was that $150,000, whatever we talked about? And you know how to go out and buy right. And once you know how to buy right in real estate, there's so many ways to make money. Because if I got this deal for $118,000 and I have somebody who I know wants to make $20,000, $30,000 on the deal, I can send it over to some of my buyers who I know that I have who are buying, and I could just make a quick $10,000 or $20,000 on the deal with no risk on my end. So once you know how to break down the deal, you know how to make money in real estate. So guys, I hope this video has helped you very much. I'm sorry if I missed things. Again, could take hours to explain this full process, but at this point you should know how to break down a deal. You just have to keep practicing, get it down. So thank you guys for watching. So if you guys want to learn more about how to flip real estate with no money and no credit, how to break down deals like this, how to do everything, like find people who will actually sell to you for prices that you can make money on, stuff like that, I teach all about it. I have a free, plenty of free videos on my YouTube channel. I've got an Instagram account that you can follow at Jaelin White, Jaelin White. I've got a YouTube account, again, at Jaelin White. And I have over 50 videos already of stuff that'll show you exactly how to do stuff like this and how I'm very young making money in real estate, really with no money. And I flipped my first deal 2 days before graduating at 18 years old with no money in my pocket. And I did not have rich parents. So if you guys want to learn, you can check me out on YouTube or Instagram, and I hope this helped.